Okay, this is my video presentation for assignment chapter 1, which is the circumstances affecting criminal liability, article 11 to 15. So, in Criminal Law Book 1, Chapter 2, Circumstances Affecting Criminal Liability. And, Article 11, Justifying Circumstances. The following do not incur any criminal liability. Number 1 is defense of person. Anyone who acts in defense of his person or rights, provided the following requisites are present. Number 1 is unlawful aggression. Number 2, reasonable necessity of the means employed to prevent or repel it. And then number 3 is the lack of sufficient provocation on the part of the person defending himself. And then number 2 is the defense of relatives. Anyone who acts in defense of person or rights of his spouse, descendants, legitimate or natural legitimate or natural or adopted brothers and sisters, or relatives by affinity within the same degrees or consanguinity within the fourth civil degree. Provided the first and second requisite of the first paragraph are present, and in further requisite, in case the revocation was given by the person attacked, the person depending on the part therein. And the number 3 is the defense of stranger. Anyone who acts in defense of rights or persons of a stranger, provided the first and second requisite of the first paragraph are present, and that the person defending be not induced by revenge, resentment, or other evil motive. And then number 4, anyone who, in order to avoid evil or injury, does not act which causes damage to another, provided the following requisites are present. Number 1 is that the evil sought to be avoided actually exists. Number 2 is that the injury feared be greater than that done to avoid it. Number 3 is that there is no other practical or less harmful means of preventing it. And then number 5, any person who acts in the fulfillment of duty or in a lawful exercise of a right. Number 6, any person who acts in obedience to an order issued by a superior for some lawful purpose. Article 12, circumstances which exempt from criminal liability. The following circumstances exempt from criminal liability. Number 1, an imbecile or insane person unless the latter is acted during a lucid interval. The imbecile or insane person has committed an act in which the law defines as a felony. The court shall order his confinement in one of the hospitals or asylums established for the person thus afflicted, and shall not be permitted to leave without first obtaining the permission of the same court. And then number 2 is a person under 9 years of age. Number 3 is a person over 9 years of age and under 15, unless he has acted with a discernment, in which case such minor shall be proceeded against with the such minor shall be proceeded against in accordance with the provision of Article 80 of this code. In case such minor is adjudged to be criminally irresponsible, the court, in conformably with the provision of this and the preceding paragraph, shall commit him to the care and custody of his family, who shall be charged with his surveillance and education, and shall be committed to the care of some institution or persons mentioned in said Article 80. The number 4 is anyone who, while performing a lawful act with due care, causes an injury by mere accident without fault or intention of causing it. And then number 5 is any person who acts under the compulsion of an irresistible force. And then number 6, any person who acts under the impulse of an uncontrollable fear of an equal or greater injury. And then number 7 is anyone who fails to perform a lawful act. Anyone who fails to perform a lawful act required by law when prevented by some insuperable cause. And then Article 13, mitigating circumstances. The following are mitigating circumstances. Number 1 is those mentioned in the preceding chapter when all the requisites when all the requisites necessary to justify or to exempt a criminal liability in their respective cases are not attendant. And then number 2 is that the offender is under 18 years of age and over 70 years. In case of a minor, he shall be proceeded against in accordance with the provision of Article 80. And then number 3, that the offender had no intention to commit so grave a wrong than it committed. And the number 4 is that sufficient provocation or threat on the part of the offended party shall immediately precede the act. And then number 5 is that the act be committed with immediate vindication of a grave offense to the one committing the felony, his spouse, ascendants, or relatives by affinity within the same degrees. And then number 6 is number 5, and then number 6 is that of having acted upon an impulse so powerful as naturally to have produced passion or obfuscation. And then number 7 is that the offender had voluntarily surrendered himself to the persons in authority or his agents, or that he had voluntarily confessed his guilt before the court prior to the presentation of evidence for the prosecution. And then number 8 is that the offender is deaf and dumb, blind, otherwise suffering some physical defects which restricts his means of action, defense, or communications with his fellow beings. And then number 9, such illness of the offender as would diminish the exercise of the willpower of the of the offended party, exercise the willpower of the offender without, however, depriving him of the consciousness of his act. And then number 10 is the number 10 is that the any other circumstances with similar nature and analogous to those mentioned above. And then Article 14, aggravating circumstances. The following are aggravating circumstances. Number 1, that advantage be taken by the offender of his public position. Number 2 is that that the crime be committed in contempt or with the insult to the public authorities. Number 3 is that the act be committed with insult or in disregard of respect due to the offended party on account of his rank, age, sex, or that is be committed in the dwelling of the offended party if the latter has not given provocation. And then number 4 is number 4 is that the number 4 is that the act be committed with abuse of confidence, that the crime be committed with abuse of confidence or and obvious ungratefulness. Number 5 is that the act be committed in the palace of the chief executive, or in his presence, or where the public authorities are engaged in the discharge of their duties, or in a place dedicated to religious worships. And then number 6 is number 6 is that the crime be committed in nighttime, or in an uninhabited place, or by a band. Whenever such circumstances may facilitate the commission of the offense, whenever more than 3 armed malefactors shall have acted together with the commission of an offense, it shall be deemed to have been committed by a band. And then number 7 is that the crime be committed on occasion of conflagration, shipwreck, earthquake, and epidemic or other calamity or misfortune. And then number 8 is that the crime be committed with the aid of armed men or persons in which afford impunity. And then number 9 is that the offender is a recidivist. A recidivist is one who, at the time of trial for one crime, shall have been previously convicted by final judgment of another crime embraced in the same title of this code. And then number 10 is that the offender has been previously punished by an offense in which the law attaches an equal or greater penalty, or for 2 or more crimes to which it attaches a lighter penalty. And then 11 is that the crime be committed in consideration of price, reward, or promise. Number 12 is that the crime be committed by means of inundation, fire, poison, explosion, stranding of a vessel, or international damage thereto, derailment of a locomotive, or by use of any other artifice which involve great waste and ruins. And then number 13 is that the act be committed with evidence premeditation. Number 14 is that the craft, fraud, or disguise be employed. Number 15 is that that advantage be taken of superior strength or means be employed to weaken the defense. Number 16 is that the act be committed with treachery or alevosía. There is a treachery when the offender commits any of the crimes against person, employing means, methods, or forms in its execution thereof, which tends directly and especially to ensure its execution without risk to himself arising from the defense which the offended party might make. And then number 17 is that advantage that means be employed or circumstances brought about which add ignominy to the natural effects of the act. And then number 18 is that the crime be committed after an unlawful entry. There is an unlawful entry if the entrance of the crime, a wall, roof, floor, door, or window be broken. And then 17, 18, number 19 is that that the crime be committed with the aid of persons under 15 years of age. That the crime be committed with the aid of persons under 15 years of age, or by means of motor vehicles, motorized watercrafts, airships, and any other means as amended by RA 5438. And then number 20 is that the wrong in the commission of the crime be deliberately augmented by causing any other wrong not necessary for its commission. And then Article 15 is alternative circumstances. Alternative circumstances are those which must be taken into consideration as aggravating and mitigating according to the nature and effects of the crime and any other conditions attending its commission. They are the relationship, intoxication, and the degree of instruction and education of the offender. The alternative circumstance of the relationship, it shall be taken into consideration when the offended party in the spouse, descendants, legitimate or natural or adopted brothers and sisters, or relatives by affinity within the same degrees of the offended party, uh, of the offender pala. And then and the next is the intoxication shall be taken the intoxication of the offender shall be taken into consideration as mitigating circumstance when the offender committed a felony in the state of intoxication. If the same is not habitual or subsequent to the plan to commit said felony, but when the intoxication is habitual or intentional, it shall be considered as aggravating circumstances. And that's all, and that is my video presentation for for the Criminal Law Book 1, Chapter 2, Circumstances Affecting Criminal Liability, Article 11 and Article 11 to 15.